You're at the good part right now, Mercedes. You came to the right place. And for us, it's always a reminder because we forget. We forget to think positively because there's so many hard things in life that comes up that makes us forget. Your job makes you forget. Your responsibility makes you forget. Your work makes you forget. Your stress makes you forget what's more important. If you live in doubt and fear all the time, all you will see is doubt and fear. And you will not get past the challenges that you face because you're seeing doubts and fear, and the challenge in front of you will now become a mountain instead of just a wall. And that wall will just keep growing. So today is not really the conversation that I want to talk about, but man, that's just a good point to bring back up, is that this is just a reminder every Monday mindset, Monday motivation, whatever you guys want to call it. But it's really a reminder for all of us. It's a reminder for me too, because man, sometimes I forget. Because there's days where it's just harder than the usual days. Some days where things just so overwhelming, you have like 10, 20 things coming at you, and you're tired, you're worn out, and that's when the doubt comes in the most. That's when doubt comes in. On a good day, when nothing's happening, things are flowing smoothly, you don't get any weird email or texts, you don't get like bad, bad, somebody talking bad about you, or you met somebody who was bad to you and it hurt your feelings. Like, you don't get any of that. Like, your work was smooth, everything was good, everything's great, right? Everything's good. And during those times, it's not when you need to be the strongest. But that's not what I want to talk to you guys about. Really, I want to talk to you guys really about some of the tools needed to help you guys fight through those situations, because our mind, the last few weeks I've been talking about some of the challenges that we face every day. I'm always working in my office every day. I'm sitting in my office. Being an entrepreneur is great, but don't forget, I choose to work. Anyone who owns a business, they're not sitting around on the beach, right? Usually the only people that are sitting around on the beach are retired folks who got nothing else better to do with their life, with no purpose, right? And they're eventually gonna die. I promise you. So there's these guys. I heard this story. Like, there's these old folks. I mean, they're apparently on the cruise ship. You can pay for like this year-long package, and it's pretty affordable. And these 70-year-old folks, I mean, they get on these cruises and they'll stay on there for like until they die. It's cheaper than staying in a retirement home, apparently, because there's medical care on the boat. Have you been on a cruise ship? If something happens, they can't just like, hey, let's bring in the helicopter and fly you into the hospital. That doesn't work. So they got a full-time staff, nurse, and everything. And so these old folks, literally, this is a side tangent. I'm just saying they die on the boat. Like, there's tons of people that's dying on the cruise ship all the time. There's a morgue in there too as well. So if you guys want to know for sure, go Google it. They'll tell you, because if you like, these people are just there. They eat, they swim, they hang out in the sun, they gamble, because on cruise ship there's casinos, and that's how their life is going to be. No purpose, no path, no reason why to exist. And eventually you're gonna die. That's just how it is. If you have no purpose, you will die. But that's not the point of the conversation. I'm just saying right now, all of us, we struggle with so many different things. For me, I'm always here working, and I'm struggling too as well. I might be able to just do it better, right? I'm sitting on my office, I'm working on this new project I got. Next thing you know, my mind start wandering. My hands start automatically going to Facebook. Like, I'm Googling on the browser, right? Facebook. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I clicking Facebook automatically? And dude, my typewriting ability now for Facebook, the keyword Facebook, is really fast. I mean, like 200-300 words a second here. I can get Facebook browser going like that. I can pull up Facebook really fast. And luckily, I don't have it on my phone because I blocked it on my phone, so I don't ever mess with it. But I used to have this autonomous action, right? And it stops me from, continuing what I was doing. So I would go to Facebook and I'm like, wait, why am I on Facebook? Like, what am I doing here? So I turn it off, I go back, and then my mind is like thinking again, like wondering again, because maybe it's the project that I'm doing, the task that I'm doing is kind of hard. And as I'm sitting there, I notice myself like, fighting, like, hey, I'm getting distracted. I want to go do something else. I want to browse social media. I want to see what some of the guys are doing online. I want to see what people are writing about. I want to see some funny videos of cats. I don't know. We all like cats. Right? It's a popular thing right now. And my mind is getting pulled away from what I want to do. And I find myself wondering. My eyes are losing focus on the task at hand in front of me. And I got dual screen. So one screen is the task, and the next screen, I could be anything. And so it definitely becomes challenging when you're working for yourself, and especially for you guys. I know you guys go through this. Like, do you guys struggle with this? Like, when you're doing one task, next thing you know, you jump to your phone. Raise your hand if you struggle with this right now. All right, we all do. So don't lie. I know you guys can raise your hand even though your camera's not on. Just raise your hand. Yeah, there you go. Just accept it. It's all right. We're not perfect. But the less we do of this, the better we are at improving. The better we are aware of what we're doing, the better it is for us to improve. So let me share a quick story with you. Like, several years ago, I wanted to get back to that 6-pack abs diet. I'm not bragging. I know how to get a 6-pack. Some of you guys probably know how to get a 6-pack too. I promise you guys probably already got the recipe. And let me tell you, it was not fun. It's never fun trying to get a 6-pack. That's why I don't do it all the time. Now, anyone who ever worked towards getting a 6-pack, they know this. I'm talking about, you have to sacrifice so many things in life. You literally have to sacrifice the joy of life just to get a 6-pack. Just kidding. Not really everything out of life, but man, there's some things you have to give up, like no more rice. Remember, rice is life for me. I'm Asian, I'm Vietnamese, so I like eating rice. So no more ice cream, no more cake, no more bread, no more drinks, no more dessert. Dude, just things that brings you so much joy, you gotta stop, man. And that diet, like, I mean, my diet usually is, low carb, keep the rice out, high protein, high greens, a little bit of oil, drop my calories, 2,000. 2,000 calories for a guy my size. It's not fun. I'm starving. So, and you do this for 4 to 6 months. And we're talking about making this a lifestyle. Like, I don't know if you can make this a lifestyle. Right? I don't know if you can make this a lifestyle, because I'm trying. I don't do this all the time. Dude, I promise you, not everybody have a 6-pack year round who is not intentionally saying, I want a 6-pack, and putting effort into it. It's not that simple. We're not 17. Okay, we got stress. When you get stress, you get stress fat around your stomach. Okay, that's normal. It's a normal thing. You get stress fat. That's called cortisol. Makes you hold your lipids in certain areas. Different people have different places, and for me, mine's my stomach. And that's the truth. I'm just calling it stress fat. The reason why you have certain love handles, that's stress handles. You're stressing out too much. Somebody's stressing you out. That's why the handle's getting bigger. Just kidding. But so while maintaining this diet, I love cake and I love ice cream, and who doesn't? But you want to not eat it. And so I get tempted, this craving, this urges. So I remember, like, there was a night. Then we had a birthday party for my oldest or something, and we bought this Asian cake. Right? We bought this Asian cake, and I was like, okay, sure. I ate one or two. That's enough. I'm on a diet. 1 or 2. And there was one left. And so we put it in the fridge, and the cake is so nice. The Asian cake's nice and creamy. It's not super sweet. It's not super like bland. It's just very light and fluffy, and it's mango. I love mango. Mango inside. When you take a bite and you get all this mango, fresh mango, you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And when you've been on a diet for the last 3 months and you haven't been eating any sweets, you're like, God, I want this. I shouldn't. But then my mind and struggling and fighting, you know, and then, you know, like 9 p.m., it's dark, nighttime, everybody's getting ready for bed. I walk to the fridge and I see the cake. I'm not terrible. I'm not a horrible person. It's just, I saw the cake, I debate, I looked at it, I said, no, I shouldn't. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't eat the cake. Don't break your diet. But then I was like, man, you know, I just had two. What's one more gonna, you know, what's one more? And so I ate the cake, you know, and I felt bad afterward, but you know, it's already done. I ate the cake, but we all got urges. We all got craving. We all got temptation. Don't lie, we all do. Raise your hand if you got some urges sometime, some cravings. Raise your hand. Don't lie. I know you guys got urges and craving, all of you. There's no shame in having it because we all got some kind of urges. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're not productive. It just, if you don't know when the urges start, you don't know how to stop it, or you don't know how to get through it. And there's many kind of urges, of course, food urges, urges for distraction, urges for alcohol, urges for drugs, urges for gambling, urges for anything. When you say, I want to stop something and you can't, there's urges in front of that. You get the idea. Anyway, I don't want to go too deep in that, you know? But the reason why we're bringing this up is because a lot of our distraction happens because we're not able to get past the urge of the distraction. Distraction happens after, but there's always a period of time before that. So just the moment before any distraction happens, there's an urge to do it. And when you're having a hard time saying no, there's many reasons behind that. And what is a distraction? I mean, in psychology, a distraction is referred to a process or a stimulus that divert an individual attention away from a particular task, thoughts, or activity caused by many things, noise, people, events, maybe internally. And it really impacts your cognitive performance, decision-making, ability to focus, and then, of course, lead to decreased productivity, decreased efficiency. Now you're feeling bad because you didn't get it done. I feel that sometimes too when I get, you know, distracted. And then there's also this thing called sedation. When you sedate yourself after distraction, because when you get distracted, you're doing things to sedate yourself. And the psychological term for sedation refers to calming or dampening mental activity. Calming or dampening mental activity. What does that mean? Numbing your mind. Why do we numb our mind? Because, hey, we're distracting ourselves. Now, this is very important because you have to understand what I'm about to talk about next, what I'm going to share, because we want to lessen the impact of the distraction throughout your day so that you can be more focused. But before we can do that, let's talk a little bit about the brain science, physiology of the brain. I'm not an expert. This is not a neuroscience class. If you want to learn about this, man, YouTube, TED Talk, I'm sure there's a bunch of videos out there that can tell you more about this. So don't quote me on anything. I might be totally wrong, but there's just a few information out there that's pretty standard. There's 3 regions of the brain. I talked about this before. The brain stem, which is the bottom of your brain. I would draw you like a little diagram, but you know, it's kind of difficult. I'm not a great drawer, and especially on a computer, it just looked like crap. I guess I could share next time. Next time I'll share, but you guys can go ahead and Google it if you want. 3 regions of the brain. There's the limbic system, so brainstem, subconscious movement, breathing. You're not telling yourself to breathe, right? Like, okay, breathe right now before I die. You're not telling yourself to breathe, right? Right now, you're not. That's the brainstem. That's what it does. It controls this subconscious movement, like breathing, blinking, your heartbeat. We're not telling our heart to beat. It's just beating on its own. Okay, so brainstem does all that. You get the limbic system, this is places where it processes pain and pleasures, like the middle part of your brain right here, this area. If you can see my hand, it's like right here. Your brainstem is like right inside here. We all got a brain, okay? Hopefully you guys know that we all got a brain. So you guys all got one of these. And then you got your prefrontal cortex. It's in your head right here. It's the front. This is where all the logic is. Complex thinking. And so in this small little area of the limbic system, you cannot tell the difference between pain or pleasure. That's very interesting, right? Like your brain just can't tell the difference. It doesn't know the difference between pain or pleasure. It just associate good things with pain if the right stimulus apply. So what happened when you mix pain and pleasure together and things goes wrong? So there's this weird experiment. I mean, they did this in the 50s and 60s. You know, some of the taboo experiment that you don't normally do anymore is animal cruelty, especially towards the rat. You know, we don't like rats, so that's why the experiments on them. And if you guys are really interested, look up self-stimulation rat experiment. And there's a YouTube video that explains how about this experiment, and they've done a study on this with the brain. So what happened? So they got these rats. So these guys had this question, like, you know, what happened if we put electrodes inside the brain? See what happened with these rats. And so they put electrodes inside the rat's brain. And the purpose was to stimulate pain. But I think they accidentally put it into an area in the brain where it stimulated pleasure. And so they're like, oh, okay, what happened with this? And so they start noticing that these rats keep pressing this lever constantly. And so, you know, it's supposed to shock the brain, right? You would think that putting, you know, electrodes in your brain and then shocking it, you'd be in pain. But instead, they put it in a spot where the rats were feeling good, the pleasure area of the brain, near the limbic system. I mean, there's an area specifically for it, but there's multiple areas that actually control pleasure. And so the rats, you know, like they press the button, they're like, oh my God, that felt great. They press it again, like, oh yeah, that felt good. And so they kept pressing it. And you know, imagine that, you're like, oh yeah, that feels good. Like, you know, orgasmic pain. That's essentially what happened with these rats. And so eventually the rats were pressing these things like 100 times an hour. Got to a point where if the researchers didn't pull like the rats out of that experiment, they essentially would starve themselves because all they wanted to feel good. So they kept pressing that. And the rats eventually, you know, I mean, honestly, the rat would eventually die. And they did, they watched it happen. They let the rat just kept pressing the lever until the rats became so exhausted, they didn't eat anymore, they didn't drink, and then they eventually died. And so the purpose of the experiment was just seeing what happened when you have pleasure or overloaded amount of pleasure. And this is direct correlation to people who are on drugs, heroin, crack, addicted to something. And they have the same response. And so eventually these rats develop this habit in their brain that, hey, I press this lever, I'm going to feel good. And so they skip everything else. And so why is this important? Like, you know, what does this mean? It's because there's something that we've done in the past to take us away from pain and replace the pain with some form of pleasure. And we wired our brain to feel good every time we run towards it. You know, imagine you have electrical shock in your brain, you would think it hurts you. It's just because if you put it in the right place, that shock will be feeling good instead of feeling painful. Imagine if it was the reverse. Every time you went on YouTube or Facebook or check on Instagram, see what your friend is up to, you get a shock to a very painful part of your brain. And it's just like, that's painful, that sucks. You probably stop checking Instagram, 100%. You do that enough, you stop checking Instagram. But that's what's going on right now because it's easier. What's going on is that it's the opposite. We get triggered by the pleasure. And so we develop all these pathways, these old pathways that's in our mind that's been there for a very long time, to where we run away to things that gives us pleasure. And remember, my point is just because we're not physically in pain. Now, the rats weren't in pain physically. There was something that's triggering their mental pain or mental pleasure. And so our brain doesn't tell the difference. There's no difference. We can't tell the difference. We can associate things to pain or pleasure. And that's the point of that whole experiment, was that, you know, if we're given access to pleasure all the time, we will go after it. That's why it's very important to be intentional. But remember, we don't go through physical pain anymore. Not a lot anyway. We do, but not all of us, right? We don't intentionally go towards physical pain because it sucks. Nobody likes to work out. I like to work out, but I don't like the feeling of pain going to the gym. I don't like my back hurting the next day. I don't like my bicep sore. My leg still hurts from that 18-mile run I did. Like I barely could run. Still painful. Nobody likes that. But if you're not intentional about it, like if you're not truly intentional about your running towards pain, you're going to start automatically going towards things that gives you pleasure. And let's talk about the pain first. I learned this word from a psychologist. It's an acronym called BLAST. If you guys haven't heard of it before, BLAST is an acronym BLAST. It stands for B for boredom. That's painful, apparently. Yeah. L for loneliness. A, anger or anxiety. S for stress. And then T for tiredness. All of this represents some form of mental pain. Why is this important? Dude, isn't it painful to sit at the DMV? If you guys live in the US, anyone who's in the US, you sit at the government-ran facility. It's not the most efficient. You sit there, you wait, and imagine you didn't have your phone. Back then, we didn't have a phone. 20 years ago, you sat there and you waited. With a TV, no sound. Can't talk either. They want you to be quiet. Sitting there. And I know the experience. It sucks. That's painful. So boredom in the DMV. Nobody to talk to. It's painful. So for you, maybe there's some anxiety with some of the things that you're doing. It's mentally painful because there's some anxiety that you're going through. Stress is painful. And because we don't know how to process it, we just automatically associate them with pain. Just stress alone is already mentally painful, but how do we approach it, right? We run away from them. Just because nobody's punching you in the arm and it's like, it hurts, doesn't mean it's not painful. For you, inside your mind is painful. So when we face this pain in front of us, what do? We run towards distraction. And that's where the urge come in. We run towards things that makes us feel good. Social media, your phone, TV, news. There's people that watch a lot of news. CNN, Fox News on replay nonstop. YouTube, Facebook. Some people go gambling, drinking alcohol, so many things that, there's other things that you shouldn't do. So many. And the most insidious of those things is like your phones. It's not hurting anybody. Drinking's not hurting anybody. Watching TV is not hurting anybody. Social media is not hurting anybody. You're not hurting anybody, but you're actually hurting yourself. You're killing yourself because you're teaching yourself a habit that keeps you away from doing what you need to get done, so that and it's stopping you from reaching your goals. Because you don't know how to deal with the pain of boredom, loneliness, anger, anxiety, stress, and tiredness. Dude, tiredness for me is the worst thing, actually, because the combination of tiredness and stress makes me even more tired, and I don't want to do anything. So that's why I do my best to get enough sleep. And that's the one, I promise you, getting enough sleep will cure a majority of these problems, because you have energy. Your mind is awake, is strong to fight through the challenges. The truth is, sometimes you think you're rejuvenating your mind, but in reality, you're just draining it more. So we need to be intentional, because if you're living in automatic, you're going to automatically run towards pleasure, towards distraction. It's going to be a normal thing. We here all have that automatic, right? Raise your hand if you got something automatic that you run to. Raise your hand. Right? We all got it. Don't lie. Raise your hand. You're not perfect. You're not God. You're not Jesus. Right? If you are, let me know. I'll sign up to your training. I'll follow. But we all got something that we're running towards. And so let's talk about some steps to help you overcome the urge of distraction, because there is a period before you get distracted. There's a moment before the actual distraction, whatever it may be. Number one, always you got to notice the urge first. You got to know yourself very well. The first step is realizing when you're that feeling of temptation, that urge, that craving start. You know, when you're about to check your phone, when you're about to grab the snack, when you're about to go to that website, Facebook, or whatever it is that you're about to do, that's taking you away from doing what you need to do. And just noticing that step first. Notice when the urge starts. And that will help you start taking control of that before the actual action happens, right? Number two, this is very important. Craving and urges, they have a time period. So there's studies that show, so you can look this up, this study that's shown that it lasts 2 to 7 minutes long. And so just set a timer for 10 minutes. Can I not get distracted for 10 minutes? Just focus on the timer, go do something else, go for a walk, replace it with a walk for 10 minutes. It will go away. So 2 to 7 minutes is when the urge happens. So ride the urge, ride through the craving. We're always gonna have it. Trust me, there's gonna be time when we're stronger to be able to handle it. This time, we're gonna be weaker to be able to handle it. But just know that it's 2 to 7 minutes long. And use that tool, use a timer to say, hey, I'm gonna give myself 10 minutes to go for a walk, 10 minutes just ride through this. Number three, you gotta figure out why. Ask yourself why. So I always do self-reflection. I always ask, why am I on Facebook? I used to ask myself, like, why am I getting distracted? After I'm on Facebook, I'm like, wait, I got a task I gotta get done. Why am I browsing on Facebook? What am I looking for? So I ask myself when I'm browsing, I'm not doing my task, I always remind myself to ask, like, what is the reason why I'm here? What am I searching for? And usually the conclusion that I finally came up with was my brain was tired. So after 45 minutes to an hour, that's when I'm like tired. That's when I don't want to do anything else. And that means I need to take a break, like a recess. We're still like kids, man. Kids cannot focus. Have you seen a kid sit in front of a desk trying to do homework? Like, dude, 30 minutes max. For me, that's my brain right now. I got a brain like a kid, 30 minutes to an hour, dude. I'm in, focus. That's not me. That's me, right? Some of you guys might be able to last 2-3 hours. I promise you, none of you guys are going to be able to last 2-3 hours with productive, deep work. 30 minutes to an hour, I realize that's my work. That's the only time, that's how much time I can focus at a time. And so I have to go leave, do something else, not be distracted. That's just my working style. Everybody have a different working style. So you got to figure out why you got distracted. Is it because you got a text message? Someone throwing you off? Somebody sent you a text message? Did a pop-up show up while you were doing research? Did you receive an email? Did you check an email that threw you off, took you away from the task that you're doing? There's always something in the environment. So, well, that's important. The next one is create a focused space. Everything got to be off when you're working. Everything around you. Websites are blocked. I got social media blockers. I got everything shut off around me. Phones on silent all the time. Do not disturb. Create a focused environment. Nothing. No notification. My desk is clean. Somewhat organized. I'm saying somewhat organized because, hey, it can't be organized 100%, but it's somewhat organized. It's good enough for me. But, it's clean, organized, the way you like it, ready for work. Then you got to have some objective, your action items. You got to set action items. Once you have your action items, you know what you got to do. I'm going to do this for next 30 minutes to an hour. And then go do something else. Come back 30 minutes to an hour. You got to set the objective. And then at the end, most important, you got to give yourself a reward that you stay focused. Those short breaks are very important. You reinforcing the good behavior. And those short breaks could be, going for a walk, relaxing, doing whatever it is that you enjoy. If it is browsing for 30 minutes, set a timer for that. Browsing on social media, do it for like 10 minutes. Set a timer for that. If that's something that you enjoy, watch a funny video. That's something that you enjoy. Go exercise. It stimulates a lot of good feeling for 10 minutes. You don't, I mean, I'm not saying go to the gym, but do something that brings you a little bit of joy. And you got to reward yourself so that you reinforce the feeling that, hey, I showed up. And it's about today. It's not about yesterday, about tomorrow. It's about today, what you're going to do today. And the more you and I understand how to control our mind, the better we are at getting things done. Stop living your life on automate, right? Stop letting your mind and your body just move without thinking, because your emotion and your body will lead you on its own if you don't take control of it. That's the truth. Like, it's gonna lead you on its own. Like, you ever wake up one day and be like, man, I'm just moving. Like, I'm so tired. I'm just like, did my teeth brush? You know, you're brushing your teeth, your hair is a mess, and you're just moving. And that's what it is. If you're not choosing to lead your body, your mind on where where you want it to go, then it's gonna lead itself through this autonomous movement. And making a decision that feels good in the short term, but not thinking about the long-term effect, that's where it's going to hurt you. So for you to be successful, you have to know how to delay that good feeling of pleasure, of distraction, of feeling good in the short term. The longer you can delay that, the closer you will get to achieving your long-term goals, because it's going to be more satisfying. At the end of the day, when you did what you're supposed to do, you did what you said you were going to do, the long-term reward is going to be way better. There's going to be more satisfaction, more feeling of accomplishment. And that brings a lot of joy. That brings a lot of good feeling in your brain, actually. It does. It's a longer lasting joy than sitting on social media for about 2 hours and numbing your brain. Like, there's a difference between numbing your brain and then feeling satisfaction. There is. There's no satisfaction in numbing your brain. There's satisfaction in accomplishment and progress.